Welcome to the Experience Strategy Podcast with Joe Pine, author of The Experience Economy and lots of other bestsellers, including the upcoming Transformation Economy book. Go pre-order your copy now on Amazon or wherever you buy books. Dave Norton, an experienced futurist and founder of Stone Mantle, and me, Aranza Savas, an expert in coaching, motivation, and behavior change. Each week, we bring you a trending story from the news and share our hot takes. Last week, we talked about some of the premiumization happening in Hollywood. Today, we are heading over to an article by The Economist. The title is Why the Ultra Rich, no, that's not you and me. I'm pretty sure none of them are listening to this, and I'm definitely sure we're not the ones hosting this podcast. Why the ultra rich are giving up on luxury assets. What? It says, forget fine wine, great art, and glitzy mansions. There are finer things in life. This article came out on October 12th, 2025. You can find it in The Economist. In the finance and economics section. So what we have here is an article outlining the case for why the sale of luxury goods has decreased. And so basically what the author is saying is that there was a glut of billionaires and ultra rich folks, and there's a glut of products available to them, so much so that they have become increasingly less valuable. It's a bit of a paradigm shift for those in this industry, but we think it holds some interesting and important lessons for all of us. So, Joe, I'm going to pass this off to you to kick us off as our fancy pants over there.
Right. What we talked about with premiumization of movie theaters is nothing compared to what's going on in ultra high experiences.
No.
And but it is, as you said, is that the luxury goods. It's hard to use the word commoditization with them, but the price actually has gone down relative to what it was just a few years ago. Whereas
after decades of increasing,
right,
yeah,
right. And I don't know if Dave, if we can put this chart in, and they have it into the show notes there. But they have a great chart looking at the price indices of goods versus services at the luxury end, ultra luxury end, actually. And when they say services, right, the Economist does not yet recognize experiences as a distinct economic offering, but 99.9% of those services are in fact experiences. I can't even think of anything that would be a real service that they're talking about there. It's all the experience sector of the economy. And so it shows how from 2015, the goods have steadily gone up. The pandemic, barely put a blip in it in terms of luxury goods, because that's something you actually could buy during the pandemic. And that recently, over the last 2-3 years, it's actually gone down, right, relative to what it was 2 or 3 years ago. But then the experiences has gone up tremendously in the last couple of years, the last 4 years, basically. And in fact, the index it shows where 2015 was 100, experiences are now 225. I mean, it's more than double in 10 years. And whereas goods, again, have gone up by about a little less than 50%. That's emblematic of the entire economy. And we had charts in the experience economy that showed how commodities have gone down over time a lot. This was 40 years of data. Goods have gone down a little bit, services gone up a little bit, but experiences have gone up tremendously in that time. And it's because of the value of experiences over goods. And that not just at the ultra high net worth level, but at all levels, people value experiences more highly. They want goods and services to be commoditized so they can spend their hard-earned time or hard-earned money and their hard-earned time on the experiences that they value. And we see that now going on with the ultra luxury end of things as well.
Well, it's, I guess the one thing to caveat is it hard-earned money if you're a multi-billionaire? Or is it heavily leveraged money?
Well, then you had to sell your soul
I don't know if
first.
there's anybody in the world that works harder than Elon Musk. I mean, the guy gets 3 hours of sleep.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. I think there's something there because Elon Musk, he doesn't even really care about owning a house.
Right.
Like he's an odd duck in a lot of ways when it comes to luxury things.
Yep, absolutely.
And I do wonder if some of our uber wealthy people are behaving a little bit differently than they used to when it comes to status. Because a lot of these luxury goods are to kind of evoke status. Of course, they're pleasurable, but there's only
money
so much
is not
pleasure.
Status.
And for him, status is something else. It turns out it's $1 trillion.
Right. Well, and it's power.
Yeah.
He only wants the $1 trillion so that he can have more freedom to do whatever he wants.
Oh, so he can go to Mars is what he wants to do.
Yeah, he wants to go to Mars.
Whatever he wants. But that's what you're seeing, I think. So one of the things I think they talked about in here that was really interesting was that it's more about the appearance of wealth now. And that is not coming through the goods that you have, but the places that you are seen. Mm-hmm. And so it was talking about the more elitist and the more rarefied an experience is, the more valuable it becomes. But I don't think it's any different than the fact that we've seen all these tech bros at Burning Man for the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, oh, look at me. I'm having this very special, unique experience until they all got there. And then they had to go start their own offshoot that was even more rarefied.
Right. So, so this look at me phenomenon, right? They used to everybody uses luxury goods to say, look at me, right? What you carry around.
Look at my Rolex. But now Rolexes are selling at 30% off.
Right. It's the experiences you have, which even they can post on social media and so forth about look at me, look what I'm experiencing, not look what I'm holding. Right. That's a huge difference. It also applies at all levels of socioeconomic, I believe.
Well, and this is something straight out of Pine and Gilmore from 2020 or from 2000. So here's a line: some luxury good firms have caught the trend. Labels including Bulgari and Armani have opened branded hotels. LVMH, which owns Louis Vuitton, and Fendi launched the fancy Belmond sleeper train in Britain a few months ago.
Belmond.
How long have we
able to do that, by the way? I mean, they like 5-6 years ago, maybe longer, they bought Belmond, which is pure luxury travel, when they realized, hey, people are spending their luxury money on experiences rather than goods.
Well, how long have we been talking about? I know you've been talking about, and we've been kind of chirping as well about, if you can't think of anything else to do for an experience, open a cafe or open a hotel. If you don't have any other ideas, that's the fastest way to get into the business, right? You used to say that all the time.
Yep. I just said it earlier this week to somebody. So yes.
Yeah. It seems so to me almost traditional that's where they're going to, because I've been living this for so many years.
Traditional in the sense of what companies are doing and what they use experienced strategists for is okay. And it is the easiest thing to do is open up a cafe, open up a hotel, get people to spend time with you. So they're following that same playbook that so many other companies have been doing over the past few decades.
Yeah. And yet it doesn't solve for the issue, I don't think, in and of itself, because it sounds like these very, very wealthy people aren't finding the same level of meaning from the experiences that they're having.
Do you detect that?
Money has become meaningless.
Or are you surmising?
I mean, I think
I'm surmising.
We're definitely in a time when we will see income disparities increase. I think there's no way around that. And so I think what we can expect to see is probably a repeat of a lot of what you saw happening in the 1980s. And that was, what's that?
The me decade, it was called.
The me decade, that's right. And so much of this is about perception. And yeah, people will probably still have great big homes and fancy watches, but like those are for middle class people now, right? Because this income disparity is going to continue.
You're run of the mill millionaire,
Exactly. You're run of the mill millionaire.
I just saw an article about a doctor. I forget what, it wasn't plastic surgery, but it's something like that, right? That just put his Florida home on sale for $200 million.
Jeez.
Wow. That's awesome.
I mean, another thing they said in this artiple, I don't know I felt like it was a bit of a distraction because it made me want to quit my job and go be a housekeeper in Florida. They said that housekeepers in Florida are making $150,000 a year. And I was like, I could live in Florida.
That's right.
It's not so bad.
It's probably a really big house.
It's probably a really big house.
Yeah. I used to use this framework all the time. It's the Pierre Bourdieu framework for status. And Joe knows it and Rancis knows it. But basically, Pierre Bourdieu was this theorist in the 70s in France. And he said that people will either accumulate cultural capital, which is basically status, or they'll accumulate economic capital, which is money, right? So you're either trying to accumulate status or money. And academics and artists, they accumulate cultural capital. And business people tend to accumulate economic capital. And what often happens is the people who have a lot of economic capital, they look to the people who have a lot of status, cultural capital, try to adopt or purchase or imitate the things that they're seeing that are happening on the cultural side and incorporate them into, so they get status plus money, right? That's kind of the thing. And I wonder if part of what's going on here is there's not a lot of cultural capital. Like there's not a lot of really interesting creativity. In fact, one of the articles I read said there's not a lot of creativity that's being generated right now that people can look to and say, hey, I want a piece of that hasn't already been commoditized, hasn't already been associated with a high-priced hotel or something like that.
Well, that is one of the things they bring up is that people are sharing ownership of some great works of art now, which I think is so fascinating. And I hadn't heard about this. And you can own a 90% share of a Rembrandt. But I think too, the dispersion of the attention economy is what makes it feel like there's no creativity, because the winners and losers are so like it's contained within these discrete bubbles because it's so highly tailored to individual subgroups.
Yeah. No, and you brought up this important point before we hopped on, where you said that one of the big issues is that there's just an abundance of everything.
Yeah.
And that doesn't allow for exclusivity. And if you don't have exclusivity, you can't have status.
That's
like
right.
if you can have access to pretty much everything, then there's no status associated with it. And I guess you can go after some subgroup, but even the subgroups, there's access to all of them as well. So it's a very challenging time. What are you going to do with all your money? How are you going to spend it?
You're going to go to a really fancy movie theater and you're going to eat at the best restaurants and you're going to tell your friends that you've been there. And that will give you that social and commercial capital. I want to think just for a second, before we slander the billionaires that we'll never meet too much. What do you think? And I especially look to you guys who've been at this. I mean, I was a 5-year-old in 1980s, so my perception of the 80s economy is quite different and more rooted in like strawberry shortcake dolls. For those of you who are historians, what do you think experienced strategists of today can learn from this sort of economic polarization?
Well, one, open up a cafe or a hotel. Still true. If you want to know,
maybe on that one.
If you've got that, a possibility. Two, actually, so this may be surprising, but I'm gonna defend the wealthy of the world. I say the ultra high net worth, but even them a bit, is actually look to see if you can create offerings for them, because what has always been the case, and I mean always been the case, is that the wealthy of the world subsidize the development of innovative offerings that eventually make their ways down to the middle class. right?
Sure.
And it was true with cars. It was true with appliances. It was true with experiences as well. The people that founded Uber, it's like, well, the rich get their own limousine that comes to them and travels around with them. How could the middle class get that? It's effectively what is going on. And so if you can, in fact, design an experience that does appeal to them, that's worth that value, no matter how much money it takes to be able to do it, if they're willing to pay for it, right, it's worth it. Then over time, you can figure out how to bring that down in cost so that everybody can enjoy it.
I think that was a great idea, Joe. And now I'm going to answer Arances's question, which is what happens when you have this split that occurs. I think that, well, I'm going to frame it this way. The 80s was about brand identity. Okay. I think that you can kind of like lump these different decades by different things. So the big innovation in strategy and in particular in luxury items was brand identity. You had Apple coming on the scene. You had Jordache jeans. You had all of these different brands that you could associate with. The 90s, I frankly think, really got labeled by Pine and Gilmore. It was about experiences, but it was only at the end of the 90s that we knew that it was about experiences. There was just a lot of things that were going on because of it. 2000s, how can it not be about the internet, right? It's got to be about dot everything. 2010s, it's about the 2010s is about technology. It's about mobility. It's about all of these different things that have happened. But what makes it different as we kind of move through these different time periods is where people put focus in terms of meaning. And I think what we're going through right now is a transitional period where they're starting to think differently about what is meaningful. So just because I own part of a portrait, or I wear Bulgari or Armani, does not necessarily make it meaningful anymore. And I think what Musk and others are doing, and it's not just Musk, I mean, Gates is doing it as well. They have a greater purpose for their money. They are trying to accomplish, to eradicate world hunger, to
go to Mars.
You see this with Bezos as well, which fits very nicely, Joe, with your new book that's coming out,
yes.
The Transformation Economy, because they're putting their money towards high-end, big innovations that will transform the world. And that's where the status is. And that's where the status is.
Statuses and stakes. There we go.
In stakes. Like
you've got to have higher, it's got to be a higher stakes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's got higher stake issues that have to be solved. And I'm
But
going to be the one to solve that.
I think that's even true, though, in terms of, I promised you guys an update on my visit to Viola's room. And that's from Punch Drunk, who were the really early innovators in kind of radically rethinking the idea of immersive theater. They were the ones who did Sleep No More, which was such an exciting experience. We all felt super transported and confused and disoriented by the experience. And it felt really new. Sleep No More probably is just as good. I mean, I'm sorry, Viola's room is probably just as good as Sleep No More, but I've already been to Sleep No More. So it wasn't that interesting to me. And maybe if somebody had never been to an immersive theater experience, they'd say, oh, wow, this is really wild. This is so different than classical theater. But it's not that different than Sleep No More. And so I think to everything that you're saying, no matter what type of experience we're talking about, we do have an obligation, if we're going to stand out now, to increase the stakes. And frankly, I didn't feel like anything was on the line for me in Viola's room. And had I felt like there was something that was risky about it in some way. Had I felt, frankly, more disoriented and more uncomfortable, I probably would have walked away with a stronger feeling of having had an experience, because we have gotten numb and we've become desensitized to so many of these triggers that just a sensory shift isn't really going to do it anymore. A story isn't going to do it anymore.
Yeah, we can only be pampered so much.
Well, I haven't hit that limit yet.
Okay, fair enough. Me neither. but to your point, it doesn't have the same effect over time.
I mean, think about it though. Even like the poor people version, say you go on a cruise and they give you all this good food. The first day, it's like, ooh, good food. By day 3, you're like, get me home to some lettuce and my wife's popcorn. Listen to our last episode if you don't know what we're talking about.
We were bringing along in the cruise, but anyway.
But it's like eventually that stuff does get we get desensitized to the thrill of it. And I think that's a lot of why we're going to see such high stakes experiences. All right. I promised you guys I'd keep us under 20 minutes. I lied. So there you go. We're going to spare you the recap this time. So recap it with us on Substack or on LinkedIn or via email. We love to hear from you guys. So reach out. Let's continue the conversation. We'll be back with you next week.